Bro, what is the NBA on? Can I watch the finals in peace without a blockbuster trade happening? I'm in the kitchen cooking, and all of a sudden, the Orlando Magic have now changed the entire future of their franchise. The NBA is wild, like truly, truly wild. The Orlando Magic are trading KCP, Cole Anthony, for unprotected first-round picks and a first-round pick swap for Desmond Bane. What? This is not fantasy. This is real. To focus on the specific draft picks we're talking about, because that matters, they're sending the 16th pick in the 2025 NBA draft. They're sending Phoenix's 2026 first round pick, and they're sending their own 2028 and 2030 pick with a light protection on their 2029 pick swap if they're bad enough. Okay, so this is where the video starts. I'm going to start with Orlando because they have completely changed their standings for the next season. This is clearly a win now move. They're taking this very, very serious. Their GM even came out to speak on how they really feel like they can win. And when you trade all of those future draft picks and equity for Desmond Bane, you are believing in him as a talent to transform your roster and take you to the next level. What this move signifies that they truly do believe in Franz and Paolo as their franchise centerpieces. And I would really compare this to what Boston did with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, where they viewed them as wings that might be similar in ways but can play together and can win, and they really allowed them to play multiple seasons out in the Eastern Conference to have success despite how far their playoff runs went and despite them not winning a title. Committing to them by getting a shooter in Desmond Bane, who's one of the best shooters in the NBA, really, really matters, because for years we've said about Orlando, okay, their defense is impressive, but offensively they have no knockdown guy. We'll say no more to that. Desmond Bane is one of the league's best volume shooters, catch and shoot, off the dribble. He can do it all. And more importantly, year in, year out, Bane has made improvements to his game outside of this year, which I think was really up and down for him. But he's a very good fit to this roster. But to commit 5 first-round picks, the pick swap, a Phoenix pick in 2026, which we know Phoenix is probably not going to look the greatest, like, it's a very interesting decision to say the least. I want to give respect to the Orlando Magic because at the very least they're going for it. They're looking at the landscape. Jason Tatum is going to be missing basketball for a year due to his Achilles injury. So this is their time to really go for it. If we're looking at the East as a whole, you have the Cleveland Cavaliers, a team that won 60 games, lost. They're going to probably be back next year as well, but they're not known as a superpower that's unbeatable. Even the Indiana Pacers, who have gone to the NBA Finals, are a team that is a very, very good team. They're the best offense in the Eastern Conference, but even they are touchable. We don't view them as a team that's just this unbeatable force. Even if we look at the Milwaukee Bucks, this is another team that, while they were looked at as a playoff contender this season, they were very underwhelming in the regular season. Dame is out next year as well with a torn Achilles to match Tatum, and their roster isn't competitive enough to make us think that they're a superpower in the Eastern Conference either. If you look at the Philadelphia 76ers, this is another team that has not been healthy. Joel Embiid still has no timetable in terms of if he's going to be starting the regular season or not. And then Paul George, like, there's just a lot of health concerns all throughout the Eastern Conference. So to me, adding Desmond Bane to the mix gives you a very good chance to compete and to contend. And I think the Pacers making the finals this year is a prime example of you never know when the window is going to be open for you. The Pacers are tied 2-2 with a chance to win a title right now versus Oklahoma City. This is definitely something that added to the idea of the Orlando Magic that if they can contend, why can't we when we have better high-end talent than they do, and our defense is probably the best in the Eastern Conference. So I can understand the thought process as to why they would want to execute a move like this. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand the thought process, but I do feel like 4 unprotected first-round picks and a pick swap is a lot to spend for Desmond Bane. But in that same breath, while I do believe that, I also have to give them credit because you're keeping Anthony Black. You didn't give up crazy young talent, and you also kept Jalen Suggs. The fact that you're able to keep these guys there, it also opens up more rotational minutes for Anthony Black and maybe Jett Howard. All my real Jett Howard stand up. So it's going to be very interesting in terms of what they're looking like. I think you have to commit to this core for at least the next 3 years. I think they're 100% going in the Boston direction where their young wings, let them grow, let them develop, let them figure things out, and let's just outfit the best fit around them. And I think fit-wise, Desmond Bane brings exactly what they're looking for in terms of movement, shooting, and more, as we mentioned earlier. So we have to see how this plays out. But again, those are a lot of draft picks, and you're really locking yourself into this roster moving forward. With that being said, it's time to talk about the Memphis Grizzlies. When I tell you I did not see Memphis making a move like this, I didn't. I actually thought the chances of Ja Morant being traded might have been higher than Bane, just because of Bane's contract and how he can fit in with what they want to do. Also because Bane has kind of been the healthier player and more available player than Ja Morant, even though Ja's a better talent. So to me, them trading him, now they say, okay, we have Ja Morant. Okay, we have Triple J. What they do now is in question. Because one could argue if they're trading a member of their three, which by the way, their three, when healthy, have been productive. Their three have gotten them to the playoffs. Their three have given them a lot of great production. But what this move signifies is that they just don't believe in the reality of those three coexisting anymore. They want to maybe retool and go in a different direction. But are they really believing in Ja and Triple J, or is this another move they're making to prepare for the unloading of one of those two players? I don't know. I think this move puts the entire future of Memphis in flux. I think Cole Anthony can be a really good fit. I think he's a pretty good value guard. To me, he's kind of like the Tyus Jones guy, where you just have another guard who can do things next to Ja. But again, defensively, that fit of two guards in the backcourt is a bit questionable. I do think he'll probably play a good bit of value minutes when Ja Morant is on the floor. And KCP, like, he had a very underwhelming season. I think there's a chance he could bounce back next year because he just could not throw a rock into the Grand like Canyon. He couldn't shoot for a lot of this season. So they're hoping that he could turn it around. I think as a vet presence, he can be a pretty good player on this team. But I don't know what Memphis is going to do to recoup, because if their goal is to win a championship, you just minused a great value player in Desmond Bane from that equation. So maybe this is a gap year for them to evaluate what direction they might want to go in. They got a ton of draft capital back, which can either be drafted or, shifted for another star player that's arguably better than Desmond Bane. We got to see what happens. Maybe this is the Giannis bait thing where they hold on to these picks and see what that can turn into next year. But they've opened a ton of flexibility, but with that flexibility comes questions. And we'll see if this really, really suits them well or not in the future. All I can say is, if you're going to trade Desmond Bane, this is the biggest return they could have dreamed of for Desmond Bane. And I think that they got value that a lot of people might have hoped Ja Morant could go for. So if you're Memphis, while this might take you out of the immediate championship contention talks in the Western Conference, this is a move you absolutely make. This is a no-brainer move if you're going to receive that much value back. And at that point, you just figure out what else you can fit around Ja Morant and JJJ. This move gives you a chance to really shift this roster in a better direction, maybe a direction where you're looking at the future and saying, what can we do to directly contend with Oklahoma City, right? Maybe they try to get a high draft pick next year as well. Like, that Phoenix pick is going to have a ton of value considering what they do with the Kevin Durant trade and how good they are going to be next year. So I like this move for Memphis. I really, really do. I don't know what comes of it. It's going to be sad to see Desmond Bane not on this team, because again, that three, when they were playing basketball together, I think had a lot of connectivity. They understood how to play well together enough. I also think the head coach being gone had to impact this move happening as well. It's just going to be a completely new era for Memphis basketball, and what that signifies, I'm all ears for. I really want to see what happens with that. In terms of who won this trade, let's talk about that. So right now, this trade, to me, I'm leaning Memphis as the winner in the deal. And the reason why I think Memphis won this trade is because they got the biggest amount of value that anyone would have been able to predict for Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane being traded for 4 unprotected first-round picks and a 2025 pick swap. And you get a good young player in Cole Anthony and a aging contract in KCP. I just think the value from that alone makes me lean Memphis. I will say for the Orlando Magic, if Desmond Bane turns into the player that is the needle moving piece that you added to go to the NBA Finals, that's a great pick. And I think at that point, I would then say they are the winners. But the way that the Memphis Grizzlies are going to be graded on this trade is simply the value and what that turns into for you in the future to aid what your franchise is going for. And I just think the picks and the amount of unprotections on them and the back-to-back years they have these picks for, I think that is going to age a lot more gracefully than Desmond Bane, especially when people are questioning if Paolo and Franz are good enough to be your top 2 guys on a title team with where the NBA is going. So to me, I like this more for Memphis, but I wouldn't be surprised if this winds up being a Jrue Holiday type of move where they traded for Jrue Holiday and the Boston Celtics went to the NBA Finals and won that same year. This could be a similar move with them getting a solidified third guy that's going to be a very, very good shooter and can be good enough defensively to where they're fine on the other end. I think that's a very good blend because a lot of people wanted Anthony Simons on this roster, which maybe they can still go get, although I think contract wise, that's probably not going to be it. I still think they need to get a real ball handler next to them. I don't think Bane is quite that, but I do think he's a good secondary ball creator. So seeing where that goes for them is going to be interesting. But in terms of who I have, it's got to be Memphis for me for right now. Let me know what you think about this trade in the comments. This is obviously a crazy trade. Happened on a Sunday. There's no basketball today. I will be back with a video for Game 5, and I'll be recapping Game 4 as well within that video sometime tomorrow. So make sure to tap in for that. But yeah, I was literally cooking food and then this happened. So I had to cook that up and then cook up this video, no pun intended. But wild times in the NBA. Love this sport. There's going to be a lot more blockbuster trades happening in this offseason. I think Shams was right because we already talked about there being hinted to there being some movement coming up, and this is happening in the middle of the NBA Finals. This might not even be the last trade to happen during the NBA Finals. So keep your antennas up. Appreciate basketball, and as always, I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace.